Hey there, it's Professor Carthy with the 10th lesson of hip hop, the history of hip hop and the evolution of it. And today's topic is the history of the Bay Area and the emergence and evolution of Bay Area hip hop. So, if you haven't joined before, I'm going to go ahead and give you a brief intro to who I am. My name is Professor Carthy. I'm currently an ed tech professional. And I also have a consulting business where I help people get into college, succeed in college, and prepare for life after college. But the story of the history and evolution of hip hop is that a long time ago, when I first started my career, I was a history teacher where I taught African American history in Los Angeles. And as a reward to my students who did well, not my students, my whole entire class, I would give them a 2-week lesson on the history of hip hop. And that's how it started. And so I figured, you know what? It's coronavirus. People are stuck in their house. People listen to hip hop. People love hip hop, but they probably don't know the history and evolution of it. So I said, why not? Let me go ahead and start a course on it, and hopefully people will learn from it. So without further ado, I'm going to have my student introduce herself, where she's from, what grade she's in, and why she wanted to take this class. And then we'll go ahead and get started.
Hi, my name is Ava Cash. I'm in 7th grade and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I love hip hop. It's my favorite genre of music, and I wanted to learn more about the history.
Okay, so thank you so much. As usual, we always have the song of the day. I have one, and what we do is we tell why we chose it after we played it and what are the elements of hip hop, and then Ava will have one. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we are going to get started. I'm going to share it. Okay. So like we stated before, we are in lesson 10, and the picture that I have today to start off the lesson is of Souls of Mischief, and they're from Oakland, and they were a group in the 90s. And the song of the day, I'm going to go ahead and play it, and we'll talk about it. So that is my song of the day, and it's called Let's Get It Started by MC Hammer, and it came out in 1988. And the reason why I just chose it is because I like the beat. I remember my sister and I used to watch Soul Beat. So Soul Beat had like hip hop videos and R&B videos. It was like a local channel. And I remember seeing this and seeing all the dancing, and my sister and I would practice in front of the TV because we loved the way that they danced. So the elements of hip hop that we see in it we absolutely see the street fashion, the athletic gear, the popular street fashion during that time is Troop. So when he turned around, he had his little Troop sweatsuit. We see the DJing in the back, and I love how MC Hammer acknowledged, what do you say, Run DMC, Dougie Fresh. So he was acknowledging the rappers of the time period from New York. This is not necessarily street knowledge, it's just getting the party started. So we see hip hop dancing. I'll just call it that, since we don't have dancing is a part of hip hop. It's no longer break dancing, but it's still part of it. So I feel like after this came out, it was good to dance like really, really just hardcore. And so before in Oakley, we just, hey, we didn't really dance like that. But this led a whole bunch of people to dance. And I always felt, me and my sister always felt like, and our friends, we had to have a whole routine together before we went into any dance. So we would practice before. And when we heard the song that we liked, we'd be like, okay, let's do our little dance. All right. So I am going to play your song, and I'm looking for, oh, there it goes. There it goes. So I was going to say, wait a minute, it's no longer in there.
Would you like me to send it again?
No. I have it. I just, I was looking in the wrong comment area.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop this and then go play it because I have to share a different screen.
Okay.
You still see my screen? Oh, no. Okay, great.
No.
So I am going to stop and then share yours.
Well, first I just thought that they were freckles, very unattractive blob thing.
That we have here, but it sure is fun. I don't know what it is about this groove that you're making us move, but it sure is fun. It's time to rap, shall we? Kid play back, rolling strong, dope and deaf. We can get funky with the best. We're just hyping it up. You know just how it had to be. You take a look around, boy, can't you see I am a rushing? Girls are just rushing with rocks and scratch. While hurts and percussion, setting the stage for the stage to get set on. I bust a rhyme in the dance, you just get off because you bit off more than you can chew. Now watch the dynamic duo do a little go-go thing. Come on, rock and swing. You gotta roll with Kid and play. Now everybody sing.
Okay, Ava. So tell us why you chose your song of the day and what elements of history or hip hop are in the video.
Yeah. So I chose it because I really liked how it had like kind of like an African music vibe. It was like a different type of beat, I think. Mm-hmm. And the elements, there was dancing, rapping. There was like nice and athletic clothing for the fashion. Mm-hmm. And then there was some jewelry as well and a few different instruments such as like the trombones and stuff.
Okay. That is very good. And I like how you pointed that out. I don't know why I never thought about that, but the kind of like the Afrocentric beats incorporated within the hip hop were a part of hip hop culture. So it evolved to that. So that was good. And then we see in that last picture, we have Salt and Pepper with their kind of African medallions and their, jewelry, like you said. So one of the things that we also can point out is the high top fades. They were very popular during that time period. And so when you talk about hip hop and fashion, it also includes your hair. How do you do your hair? So we see the ladies of Salt and Pepper. They have their, door knockers, they call them. And then they have their hats. And then they have like the mushroom cuts. And then the men have the high top fades. So thank you for that. We are going to go ahead and go to another part of the screen. And we are going to go ahead and start our class. And what we usually do to start our class is we have a poll on the last class that we have to make sure that we understand what's going on. So here we go. So like I said before, here's our class agenda. We already had our intro. We have our song of the day. We're going to do actually a poll, and then we're going to do a pest analysis of California and Bay Area. And then we are going to do the Bay Area hip hop history and then wrap up. So our first question is, which group that was dedicated to protecting Black people and advocating for their rights was deemed the single greatest threat to America by the FBI? Was it A, the Black Panther Party, B, the NAACP, C, SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or D, the Brown Berets?
It was A, the Black Panther Party.
And why do you say that?
Because the Black Panther Party fought for their rights and rights of other African Americans, and the FBI shut them down and arrested a few of the members.
Okay, so that is good. And just so you know, during that time period, people were inspired by the Black Panther Party and other groups that were fighting for civil rights. And that's why I put down there the Brown Berets. So the Brown Berets were the Chicano movement for Latino people. And so there were chapters in the Bay Area, Los Angeles, and in Texas. So I wanted you to know that. SNCC is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It has its roots in North Carolina, so I wanted you to know about that. So college students fighting for young people's rights, especially African Americans. So that's why I put those things there. So our next question is, which blaxploitation film had the greatest influence on Northern California hip hop? Was it A, Foxy Brown movie, B, The Mac, C, Shaft, or D, Superfly?
I think it was B, The Mac, and I don't really have a reason, but I remember us talking about that film last class.
Okay, and ding, 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 you're right, it is The Mac, which we said was about a character who went to jail for 5 years, came back, was trying to make money and be the biggest pimp in California or Oakland, but it was dangerous. He was trying to make money with other friends, but they turned to Black nationalists, similar to the Black Panther Party, and so he basically got ran out of Oakland. So the Mac, like I said, has influenced Bay Area rap a lot, as well as Southern rap, but you'll see it little elements of it throughout different kinds of raps that you hear. So we are going to go ahead and get started. And we are going to do a pest analysis of California history and specifically Northern California history. PEST stands for political. What are the political things that are going on? E stands for economic. S stands for social. What is acceptable? What are the attitudes? And then T stands for technology. During the last time that we spoke, Ava, can you tell me about some of the things that we spoke about that related to this?
Yes. So I know that we spoke about like more about the Black Panther Party and stuff.
Okay.
Started in 1966. They were seen as a threat because the people didn't like seeing armed Black people. And then the first free breakfast program was started by them, and that was in 1969.
Okay. Yep. So that's one of the big things we talked about. We also spoke about the free speech movement. I think I might have given you a wrong date. You had asked when did it start. The free speech movement actually started in 1964 at UC Berkeley. And the reason why they had the free speech movement is because the school and the campuses were saying that college students couldn't hand out any political pamphlets, saying they were against the war and things of that nature. And they said, you know what, this is our right to protest and say what we want to say. And as a result, it grew and it became part of the anti-Vietnam movement that was going on. We also have the free speech movement we talked about. Was there any other movement that we talked about?
I don't think there were any other movements, no.
Yeah, we started talking about blaxploitation. Okay. So I wanted you to see the evolution of things. So we have the Black Panther Party, the free speech movement. We also have women fighting for their rights. Roe versus Wade is passed, where abortion is legal. So women have the choice. If they don't want to have a child, they can go through a process to get it taken care of. And we also have something that is evolving. We have the Native American movement, where they overtake Alcatraz and demand their rights. So we have an explosion of people demanding their rights because they're tired of being oppressed. But in the 70s, we have a situation where I would call it the hippie and counterculture movement. So everything that we think of as, you stand, you go to college, you do this, you do that, straight, narrow, it was against that. So the hippies were free love, going to concerts, smoking marijuana. That at the time, sometimes in the 60s and 70s, people called it reefer, weed, whatever. They were smoking it, heroin, whatever. They were having a good time, free time. And that was the hippie and counterculture that existed in the Bay Area that spread throughout America. So again, I want to talk about this because this is in the backdrop of what is going to be happening and influencing the people that create Bay Area hip hop when it starts to emerge.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So that we could say that took place in the late 60s all the way till the early 80s, the hippie and counterculture. But of course, you still see some hippies today. And then the worst thing that happened, I would say, to just our communities was the crack. When crack started to flood Oakland and in California, it destroyed a lot of Black communities. I just remember, you kind of get numb to it, in the sense that you would see somebody who was addicted to crack walking across the street, or asking for something, and you kind of just was like, whatever, ignore it. But it destroyed a lot of families. I don't think I know too many families that were not destroyed by it. And as a result of the crack epidemic, basically it's cocaine, and it's cooked, and it's a cheaper version that a lot of people who were not necessarily rich could afford. So cocaine was usually for wealthier folks who could afford it. It was in powder form, but crack was cheaper. But then the other thing is that if you got caught selling crack or with crack, you would get a longer jail period time versus if you got caught with cocaine. So the people who usually had crack on them tended to be Black and brown. So a lot of us ended up in jail as a result. But this is not necessarily during the 80s, but I wanted you to see someone who was addicted or had been addicted, to see his evolution. So you can see how someone looks and then how they recover if they do, okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who recycles is just not a criminal or a crook or wrong. People have had some hardships in life. Some people were born into poverty. Some people were born with a high chance to really make it out here. I'm going to admit that, it wasn't like okay, well, society did this to me, and it was other people's fault. It was definitely my fault that I ended up in the position that I am today. Right about the time we turned 18 or so was really when the crack epidemic hit our community, and it hit us like a ton of bricks. It caused our loved ones throughout the community to steal, people that never stole before, and they were stealing from their own families. We struggled with him. And finally, one day, we agreed, my mother and I, we're just gonna wash our hands of this guy. We're gonna let him go. It was very hard for my mother.
I got there and he didn't look right. And I told him, I said, come on, Landers. If you can't get out of here, I said, I'll drag you out of here, man. You're my best friend. Come on.
She carried me out. She helped drag me out with her little bitty self. She helped drag me out and got me to a place that there was some cushion at, and I laid down. And then I ended up very disoriented. And she stayed with me and had somebody go call 911. And they ran some x-rays, and they found out that I had a lacerated spleen and I had internal bleeding.
I'm the director of a program for men who are wanting to make changes in their lives from drugs and alcohol. I really believe that this program can really work for those who choose to come. I myself, who is an ex-addict, have concerns about his situation to help him any way I can.
Nothing grows from a seed unless it dies first. So, so I've been through my valleys the weekend. I've been out here for a while, and I want to get back to some type of normalcy in my life. How you doing, cousin? It's so good to see you, man. I'm glad to be ready down there.
I told Landon, if he want to get himself together, I have a bed waiting for him. So I'm here to pick him up. A lot of the family members haven't seen Landon in years. He haven't seen his brother in 15 years. When you're out here into drugs like this, you don't want your family members to see you. You're always trying to stay away from them because you feel ashamed, you feel guilty, embarrassed. It's just a humiliating situation.
August 1st. That was the day I left from over there in Oakland from my shanty to come here. I learned that I wasn't loving myself out there. I was destroying myself out there, My plan is to stay sober, to stay healthy, to one day find me a wife before I get too old, 54 now, okay, hurry up. Lord, I have to trust you. I want to come out of this addiction. I want a wife. I want to live a quiet and peaceful life. I don't miss being on the streets. I don't miss that. No. But what I do miss is the love that we did share for one another and looking out for one another. You find it greater in that society than you do in this society. We have to look out for one another and care for one another because our pride is going to look out and care for us.
So, did you see any changes or things that happened to him?
Yes. So after he stopped with the crack, he entered a rehabilitation program, I think, and he was able to do yard work and kind of calm his mind.
Okay. And then we could also just see his physical aspects, how he changed. I don't know if you saw his friend earlier who, saved him. You could tell she's definitely on some kind of drugs by the way that her face is, her body, her physical presence. So, like I said, this is different because it affected Black people, and it seemed like the government didn't care because it's different. So now we have something that is similar, opioids, but now that it's affecting white people at higher rates, government tends to help them. Where if you got addicted to crack, you were on your own. If your family member didn't help you, or your church member didn't help you, or somebody didn't help you, you were on your own. It was kind of like, oh, you chose to do crack. Well, you got to figure it out yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So I just wanted to show you, one, success, but there's a lot of people who go in and out. Crack still exists. It just destroyed our community. And it also, there was violence as a result of it. And a lot of people moved from Oakland because of the crack and, shootings, all kind of stuff. My family actually moved from Oakland to Vallejo because the crack epidemic was so bad. And we weren't, doing any drugs, but still it was around us and there was violence. So I think when I was your age, at one point, I just remember all of a sudden, my parents were divorced, but I was living with, we were living with my dad. And then in this apartment complex, it was nice. It was around the lake. And then all of a sudden we started hearing like this one apartment, they would always have their door open like all day and all night, people going in and out, and you could just hear the door going. And I remember asking my dad, like, why did those people keep having visitors like all day and all night? He didn't necessarily tell me, but one day when I was going out to play outside, all of a sudden shooting started. So I was about to go play with my friends, but my dad threw us inside the house. But there was a shootout at the complex, and it was drug dealers who were, but luckily we're fine and I'm alive. So,
yeah.
So that's a crack thing that affected. I wanted you to just look at this picture right here. I'm sorry. Before we go on, when we think about crack, what category would it fall under? Would it fall under pest, political, economics, social, or technology?
I think it could be social because if people help you, that's like in your community and stuff.
Okay. And then just social, because remember, social doesn't have to necessarily be good. It's just what is in the environment that exists. So it is social in the aspect of that. It could also be part of economics because there were, so before crack came in, there were lots of, there was Montgomery wards, which was like a Sears. There were factories, there were the military bases. So people had plenty of opportunities to work. As a result of white flight and businesses closing down, a lot of people didn't have the opportunity to get good paying jobs. So then that crack thing became attractive because you could sell crack and, support your family.
Right.
Now I would like for you to look at this and then tell me what you see.
I think it's like the rent of places or of parts of Oakland.
Okay. And that is true. And so what I did was I wanted to show you, this is current. This wasn't in the 80s. However, I wanted to show you because I think that this is a good reflection of where people that have certain amounts of money live. So, So if you look at this, where do you think people who have a lot of money would most likely live? And what part of Oakland?
Probably in the Northwest Hills.
Okay. And why do you say that?
Because it's the most expensive.
Okay. And then where do you think that people that might not have a lot of income would live?
In Fruitvale, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, it is. In Fruitvale. Okay. And then it goes all the way to Elmhurst in central East Oakland. Okay. Right. So even though this is today's time period, it's still, you can kind of surmise what was going on in the 80s and where people live based on their economics and also the demographics. Now, we said as a result of immigration that this is Black and brown immigration. So you have Latinos who are coming in and Asians who are coming into the Bay Area. And I just want you to know that when I was in school, like white people were a minority. So it wasn't until, I think it was until graduate school or something where I had ever been in a class where it was all white folks.
Okay.
But it would be like, I would go to a class, like when I went to school in Alameda, which is located over here. it would be the majority of people would be Filipino. And then at one point of time, I said right here, we lived by the lake, and that's where that was. And then at one point, we lived in Fruitville. And so Fruitville was mostly a Mexican neighborhood. So my school, the majority of people were Mexican. Even my teachers in Catholic school were Mexican nuns. Okay.
Okay.
So I just want to show you that in East Oakland, it's more working class, more middle class in the hills. North Oakland, more upper class, and then West Oakland, working class. And so you have, we also used to say, where are you from? You know, when we would talk to each other. And if you said you were from the hills, it was assumed you had what?
Money.
Money. And I'd be like, well, I'm from the flatlands. And it kind of was like, not necessarily that I'm broke, but, you know, I'm not rich like you guys. I don't have a silver spoon in my mouth. My parents work and work hard to make sure that, you know, I have a good education and I, you know, live well. So this was, we called the flatlands and then the hills. So that's the backdrop. Now let's get into some things. So again, we have Oakland Hills. It's where wealthier people live, working class people, all up and down here. And then we have Alameda, that used to be the naval base. Lots of Filipinos over here. And then Piedmont was like a little drop in between Oakland that was mostly super rich white folks.
Okay.
It was really interesting. And this right here was the lake. And this is where lots of Black folks used to hang out. And I don't know if you saw, did you see that thing where, what did they call that girl? Barbecue Betty, was that? Where she called the cops on somebody because they were barbecuing. Did you hear about that in Oakland?
I did not hear about that.
Right. I'm going to have to look it up and show you that. But she was acting like Black people can't barbecue, but Black people have been hanging out around the lake for years. My dad, when he first came to Oakland in 1973, I have a picture of him hanging out around the lake. With that, I also have to tell you about the culture back then. A lot of people hung out and we went to skating rings. And even if you didn't go to the skating ring, you would go to the Lake Merritt and you would roller skate. And also at Lake Merritt, they had this thing called Fairyland. And so Fairyland was like little rides for kids. You had your toys. It was like so fun. And people don't know that in the 1940s, early 50s, that the founder of Disneyland actually came to Oakland and he saw Fairyland, and that gave him an idea, and that's how he created Disneyland, because he came to Fairyland. Nice. So another thing that was going on during that time period is Yo MTV Raps came out. So Yo MTV Raps is going to be crucial to the hip hop community, and it came out in 1988. Remember we said before that they had MTV that came on, but it was mostly rock. Then it started showing Black music until 1988. So you definitely want to understand that. And they say that it could almost like compare it to FM and AM radio. FM radio back in the day when you would turn it on was mostly rock, pop, and then if you wanted to listen to Black music, you would turn to AM. Okay. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit so you understand what Yo MTV Raps. Yo MTV Raps was it helped hip hop grow like just immensely.
Okay.
Oops. So I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to get the information so I could play this for you.
Okay.
All right. Where did it go?
Yep.
Okay, you should be able to see it.
Yes, I can.
Okay, and then hopefully it'll play. If not, then have you ever seen Yo MTV Raps?
No.
Okay. Okay, it's not going to the thing that I wanted it to, but I'll show you a clip of what Yo MTV. Oh, there it goes.
TMC in the place to be. The ramen on the mic since 83. The KING of the MIC. And that's all because of Yo MTV Raps, that is. Yo MTV Raps was, is, and will always be hip-hop.
Yo, MTV Raps today. It really was an ambassadorship for hip-hop to mainstream America.
Back in the days on the boulevard of Linden, we used to kick for jeans and the presence was fitting. There were black people behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. It was unheard of. Don't sweat the technique.
Hip-hop couldn't have gotten this far if it hadn't have been for Young TV Raps.
All black youth that had exposure to cable TV were watching. More importantly, the world at large was watching.
It was definitely something that you look forward to. You wanted to watch. You wanted to see who was going to be on there. What are they talking about? You know, it was a big deal.
Freedom of speech, let them take it from me, next they'll take it from you. Then what you gonna do? It created a generation of kids who grew up on this stuff. That's the generation that elects America's first black president.
Yo, TV, Rap.
So that's what Yo MTV Raps was. So I just wanted to show you that. I think it would come on every Saturday, but definitely your parents watched it. I watched it every weekend and would record it so I could play the videos to learn the dances with my sister. Now we are going to, and so that would be kind of considered, what would you consider that?
I think it could be social as well, or possibly technological, because it was on TV and because of like all the music and stuff.
Yep. And I agree with you, because MTV was like the first time instead of radio that you had visuals to go with your music, and it helped people.
Right.
So the godfather of rap is super important to hip hop, and the godfather of rap in Oakland is known as Too Short. So I'm going to let you see a little clip of Too Short. Where is my, there it goes.
The Bay Area was always seen as the forefront of independent hip hop. U40, you know, even when
Okay, so here's I know you saw it. If you didn't see it, you should have saw it. It was Planet Rock, and that was the documentary. I think VH1 did it, like a 4-part series. I don't know if it's BT VH1. It was a 4-part series, or maybe more. I don't know, but it was about the relationship between crack cocaine and hip hop.
Okay.
And it told all these stories, including mine, of how we built these empires off of crack profits. And basically, in the early days, you know, economically, there was no bank that would loan me anything to make music. So I started off, the first label I started on was called 75 Girls, owned by a drug dealer who kind of had rock star aspirations. And he dressed like a rock star, and he hung around, you know, famous people and people that were local celebrities and people that had been in, you know, big groups and stuff, because I told you we got the musical heritage. And I learned from them, you know, the ropes. Like, they was buying studio time every night, but it was all dope money. And then right after that, I was in that situation during 1985 and 86. So in 87, the situation fell apart. And the guy who was running the label, his little brother and his first cousin, we all started a label. We took his exact formula. We went to the same studio that we had been going to. We went to the same manufacturer that pressed the shit up. We went to the same distributor, and we went to the same record stores, dropping shit off. We did the same fucking routine. Picked up the checks. We did everything he did. And basically, in between those two situations, 75 Girls, and the next label we started was called Dangerous Music.
Dangerous, right. Shout out to the Dangerous crew.
I literally, like you would go to Wall Street trying to raise capital, I went to the streets to my old customers I used to sell tapes to and tried to raise dope money. And I had like a little 2-sheet. It told you, if you invest this much, you know, we're gonna press them up, sell it for this, and make that. And dudes was a lot of money, was like, man, I don't think so, Short. I don't think so. I don't think so. And then one homie tapped in and went for it. And really, above and beyond what I put on paper, really invested in that shit. And we fucking made millions. And it's like, at the same exact time, E40 is right up the road, 30-minute drive up the road in Vallejo, and those boys are selling dope. And him and his brothers and his cousin, B Legit and B Shot, they became a family group and put their dope money in their career. And you building empires on this shit. Down the road, you got Dr. Dre, who's a genius. DJ, he been in the World Class Wrecking Crew. They on some shit that, you know, Lonzo and them, Dre want to, you know, I don't know, you know, he always wanted something bigger and better. Right. And here come Eazy-E, little motherfucker that sells a whole lot of dope. Didn't give a fuck about rapping, but he was like, Dre, you want to be, okay, I'll put the money up. And literally, in the process of Dre like the swag so much, we've heard this story a few times, like the non-rapper putting up the money, you know, the cool dude in the hood, like, you do it, and then all of a sudden it works.
That's how every marginalized community has started in America. That's the story of America.
So yeah, I'm saying that's how we became hip-hop. Yeah. It's just literally the way we did it. You couldn't be E40 or Too Short without the drug connection. I couldn't figure out how to sell cassette tapes and albums if I didn't do exactly what drug dealers did when they sold dope. I did exactly like them. That's how they like, oh, you selling out the trunk. Where the fuck you think the dope was? It was in the fucking trunk. Like, at the same time, we dropping off boxes of cassettes and shit to record stores and distributors.
So, what insight did you get into Too Short and how he emerged and started?
I realized that he was saying about like how he was influenced by E40 and they kind of had a connection.
Okay. And then also, it took money to start, like, this is a business. So you need somebody to make your records. So they didn't have records. Well, there were records, but they were costly. So instead of records, what did he sell?
I think dope or something.
No, he sold tapes.
Oh.
So he sold tapes, but he didn't have the money to make the tapes. So a drug dealer financed it. So he was trying to say, in here, there was a connection to the crack game. You know, a lot of rappers may have started out as drug dealers or use drug money to start their careers because they could not get money from the banks. Okay. You get what I'm saying? So in essence, if we think about the elements of hip hop, that's street entrepreneurship. The bank will not give you money. So what do? You go to your own community. In your own community, a lot of people don't have money. However, the drug dealers have money. So that's how he started. And he used to sell, like he said, the first time that he was coming out with music, he's actually started recording music in 1983. He went to Fremont High School. He was in the marching band. A lot of people don't know that. But that record deal kind of like fell apart with 75 Girls. So that was a drug dealer. He was no longer involved. But what he did was he was saying he went to investors. And the investors in this case were drug dealers in the community. And as a result, his second album or his label was started, the Dangerous Crew. And remember I said to you before that if we look at hip hop, usually it starts in crews. You don't do hip hop by yourself, right? You might have a rapper, you might have somebody who makes the beats, you might have somebody who's doing the marketing. So it's a crew that you are with. And so in this case, he started the Dangerous Crew, and then we'll talk about that further. But he would sell tapes out the trunk. So when I was in elementary school, I would see him parked outside of St. Elizabeth Elementary and the high school, and he would sell tapes out of the trunk. And one of the things that he did so that people would buy his music is that if you paid him a certain amount of money, he would say some lyrics about you on his rap song.
Wow, that's really nice.
So yeah, so it was nice. So everybody was trying to get, paid so they could get on that rap song that he would make. And you have a thing in hip hop culture, especially in California, with your cars, right? So you got to ride to it. So Cutlass Supremes were popular. They're old. Everybody wanted a Mustang from the '60s, but your rap song, your music had to have a lot of bass, and so he would make, I would call that riding music. So one of the things that he used to always say, and his word was bitch. And he used to be like, but the way he would say it was biatch, right? So it got popular. So everybody associated that with Too Short before other people started saying it. And then because he would tell the stories, everybody would wonder, like, is it true or not? So his kind of rap was, he wasn't rapping about killing people. He was rapping about, all the girls he supposedly had sex with. He would always be talking about how women were bitches. But even though I'm a female and there was a lot of, women who liked the music, we were like, well, he's not talking about me. He's just having fun, right? This can't be real. And we used to say to ourselves, there is no way that he could have sex with all those people. Like, I mean, he would probably die of AIDS or something like that because it was in existence. And I remember riding the bus, and he had the line in his rap song about riding the bus number 43. And I was like, oh my God. So everybody on the bus would be like, we ride this bus. Is he talking about somebody on this bus? Is there somebody on this bus who has that name that he, was talking about in the rap song? Not in a bad way, but in a good way. So that was how he started getting a lot of hype in Oakland. And again, this was an independent label. So no big record companies were picking up his hip hop songs or rap songs and trying to sell it. So he would sell it. He would buy a whole bunch of tapes, press them, and sell them out the trunk. And then eventually the big record labels heard about this guy named Too Short who was doing it in Oakland. And they were like, hey, want to do a record deal? And then that's how he got more national. Okay. I know we've gone over time. What it looks like we're going to have to do is the next class, we will dive deep straight into the different rappers of the Bay Area. And then the next week, we'll go into the history and the rappers of Southern California, because it's a different kind of rap. So if you listen to Too Short, he's talking about pimping, doing a lot of girls, having parties, being a Mac. He's not talking about killing. The only song that I can remember is The Ghetto. He talks about conditions in Oakland, but never about necessarily killing people. But he might say, somebody killed such and such. And the other thing you need to know about Too Short is that he eventually came to Atlanta, and he moved to Atlanta from Oakland in '94. And eventually, and eventually he started meshing into the Atlanta hip hop scene and started working with artists. So there's some songs with Lil Jon and Too Short where they worked together. And it was an exciting time because I was in Atlanta when Too Short moved, and we used to have a party. Yeah, we used to have this party every year. I think it was, I can't remember if it was a little, I think it was in the springtime, and it was called the Cali Party. So Too Short and the Dangerous Crew used to come out to the party. It was just basically like a big picnic in the Mosley Park in Atlanta. And then they would play all this Cali music. And so everybody from Cali would come out. But of course, people from other states would come because they heard it was a good party. So Too Short and the Dangerous Crew would come out there, play their music. And there was no, what did they used to do? They used to open their cars and then just play all the music out of their cars, and you could hear it in the trunk because they would have big speakers. So, do you have any questions before we leave? And so this Thursday coming up, we'll just go straight into more of the artists that are from the Bay Area.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I hope you learned something, and study, because I'm going to give you a little quiz as usual, all right?
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.